Welcome to Inclusivity Unlocked, the podcast that's all about inclusion and diversity, brought to you by the association Explorator. And we're chatting with you right from our studio in Craiova, and we will make sure that tricky isms and complex terms from the world of inclusion become a part of your everyday life. Okay, now it's time to unlock. And here we are with our special guest, Tony, and he's actually Craiova, which means in Romanian that he's from Craiova. And this is the place where we record this podcast. And for the time of this podcast, he will become our guide into the Romanian identity.
Thank you for having me, Asya. I'm very excited to be here, and I'm very happy and I'm excited to dive into a meaningful discussion like this. And I saw that you put an accent on identity.
I'm guilty.
So we're gonna dive into that.
Yeah, thank you for getting into my silly jokes here. But to be honest, the topic will be pretty serious today. Because we will try to discuss what identity is, what defines us, how inclusion is connected to identity and why they come along together, and how inclusion can support actually self-expression. So let's start with the fundamental question. By the way, no fundamental questions yet, but Tony, thank you, because Tony was the guide for all the international volunteers and Erasmus Plus students who came to Craiova, and I think we need to present you better somehow. I myself saw Tony giving tours for Erasmus Plus students in Craiova, like showing the main spots, like the theater square, I don't know, museum places probably. Yeah. So thank you for that, and I think you will be the best partner in crime to discuss how we can identify ourselves. Yeah. Okay, let's start with a fundamental question now. How would you define the word identity?
Mm-hmm. I think it's everything around us and in us. So your beliefs, also the way you perceive yourself, you like put yourself out in the world, also the way other people perceive you. Mm-hmm. So I think that's how I would describe identity.
I think it's great perspective. And here I will look at my computer and I will tell you the scientific point of view a bit. And I will try to do it also during the podcast because we need some experience in this discussion. So the scientists give us the idea that identity is our feeling of self, how we perceive who we are, collective qualities, beliefs, and even physical traits that define us. And of course, through the life, they change because we're also changing an identity. But some traits of identity, they come to the forefront, and some elements remain constant, such as gender, religion, even though it's again changeable through life, but they are essential in defining yourself. Sexual orientation, cultural affiliation, or nationality. So the deep understanding comes when you ask yourself question, who am I? Am I a good person or a bad person? What are my talents and strengths? What am I bad at? Mm-hmm. And all those questions you ask yourself to define. Who am I? Am I a shy person, or I'm open to talk in front of the camera? So the question, how would you decide yourself now? I mean, what adjectives do you use to talk about yourself? For example, for me, I would say that I'm 23, I'm art history graduate, I love art, also I'm a Russian person, and I'm a traveler. I think that will be my combination.
I like that. I think, okay, let me also start with age. I'm 22. I think when I'm inside of Romania, I'm like really proud to be from Craiova. It's like something that like I'm like, yeah, I'm from Craiova. Also because of our accent, like we have a very specific. We use a specific tense here in this region. So I'm very proud whenever I talk with people outside of this part that I'm like, yeah, that's right.
I speak very fast because I'm Croatian.
And I would say I'm a traveler. I like to describe myself as that. I love traveling. I love to explore things, as your association, and passionate. Yeah.
That's very nice adjectives, actually. But the question for me is that, are you sure that you gave those adjectives to yourself? Because we are social animals in a way. We are shaped by society around us as well. And it happens from the childhood when we see the important adults for us, like parents, and they play an essential role in developing us. Of course, there are other people in society, like friends, when you're a kid, but the parents from childhood, they play the essential role, and they give you the main ideas. So, and values. Do you think that your upbringing and your family, Romanian family, somehow influenced your identity? Was your childhood? How was your childhood in Romania?
Okay, I think happily I didn't grow up in communism, so that's a good thing that I'm starting with, and I would say I'm really happy that I grew up with like friends around me, and that I didn't always stay on my phone. That I was always like, sometimes I wouldn't even go home for hours, because even if I would go to ask for water, my mom would be like, "Come inside, because you stay too much outside." So I think that's one thing that I'm really grateful for in my childhood, and also my mother was really, I wouldn't say strict, but somehow restrictive in some ways, and I'm like really grateful.
What I'm saying about identity in this case is that, for example, I've been told some phrases that shape my identity in a way, like your room should be very clean because you're a girl. Imagine like you go into the family of the man and you won't be clean enough to be a good wife, you know? And those ideas, even though it was just different time, and in this period in 2000s, I think, in Russia, like the ideas, they were pretty much patriarchal, the way people behaved inside of the family, and it was a normal thing to say. It wasn't only me. I know a lot of other women who've been treated the same way. Also, I think it affects the way we perceive ourselves with the body shapes, because sometimes we subconsciously see how our mothers think of their bodies, for example, or how they build their relationship with food. And of course, it can affect a kid even if no one bullies the kid directly, like saying, "Hey, you're fat," which is also a pretty common thing in a post-communist environment. Still, they see how their parents deal with this, and especially when you come from an environment where people didn't have enough money to provide themselves with some food at some point, and maybe they finally got the chance to buy some food, and now they overdoing it, or they're not doing it still at all, like going to gym 24/7. What I mean is that all of that concepts, even though as a kid you might not understand that it's there, it exists near you. And I think for me the most challenging part is kind of to define these concepts in my mind that are kept there. But as a kid, I actually forgot that it'd been said to me. I mean, as an adult, I don't remember what my parents said to me directly, but as a kid, I understood that I can survive only if I will follow some rules. Like, I will do as they say. Like, I will clean my room because otherwise my mom will be very mad.
Yeah.
And it also kind of shapes your identity. You become a pleasing person in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Have you ever experienced something like this?
Yeah, I think maybe for me it was quite a bit the opposite. Like, because I have a sister, my mom was always like, oh, you shouldn't clean. Like, tell your sister to do this and that and do this. And I think
you didn't wash the dishes.
And whenever I wouldn't wash the dishes, for example,
Mm-hmm.
my mom would like tell my sister, not me, even though they were only my dishes there, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, it made me be like a bit more lazy and be like, oh, if there is a woman in the house, it's fine, she's gonna do it. So I think that's where I'm fighting against it.
Mm-hmm. But like growing up, you were able to change these concepts in your mind.
No, so far, even as right now, I think it's still hard to fight the urge to be like, no, I should do it because I did them. Because my mom still tells me, and I'm like, no, I did them. I should do the dishes also. Like, I should clean them if I did them dirty.
If you cook the food or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So even right now, I'm fighting, like, because back in my mind, like, how I grew up, it's still there. I'm like, it's okay, someone is going to clean them, not me. But then I'm like, no, I should clean them because I did them. So it's still something that like an urge that I fight even right now. Even though I know it's not right now, it's still hard because it's something that I grew up. It's something like in the back of my mind. I don't remember exactly when my mom started telling me this, but it's something that I'm like, I shouldn't do it because women will do it for me. Yeah,
sometimes nowadays I'm practicing this, like writing the way I'm thinking about myself. For example, like when I criticize myself and I'm like writing down what did I say, and I'm seeing that this is not totally mine. Like I already heard it somewhere, and of course, it's hard sometimes to go directly to the moment when it's been said, but at least to understand that that's the influence from society or from adults that been around you when you were a kid. Somehow, it also makes me feel more safe, like understanding that it's not fully mine, or that this critic inside of me. That it's been brought up by all those concepts from childhood. But again, the reason why we're talking about that connected to the topic of identity, because those concepts, those critics inside of you, they also create your identity. Other question that I would like to discuss with you is, are there words or ideas that you think you adopted from your childhood about yourself? I mean, I will give my example. I think that for me it's the concept of goodness, like being convenient to others, like as I said, being pleasing, or the idea that I'm awkward, even though I don't think that I'm the person who crushes everything on its way, but like I wanted, to play in theater and be somehow also connected with acting. And at some point I was comparing myself also to other kids, and then the teacher in the theater, she also told me, but you're kind of not as good as like you need to be a good actress. And then I think it shaped for me the idea that like my body is not stretchy enough, not moving in the space that's nicely to do the dancing, to do some movement. So I thought, okay, I'm a very awkward person, and like I'm not that kind of girl who can do, how it's called when you kind of do the legs out.
Like the split?
Yeah, like the split, yeah. So yeah, I kind of just had to accept, and I also kept this idea in my mind all the time, like, oh, I'm a bit awkward. And yeah, I think it also went to some communication points when I'm just like, okay, it's better not to tell anything, because if I start talking, it would be very awkward, so let's not go into that. So yeah, do you have any ideas from childhood that shaped you?
Yeah, maybe like, I don't know what's the opposite of proud, but that.
Okay.
A few moments
Guilty.
later.
Ashamed. I'm feeling ashamed.
Yeah, that's a good word
Okay,
actually.
okay.
Yeah, so I think ashamed because we are Romani. Yeah, I think my parents really hid that for a long time because you're really pushed aside.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I learned that from my parents, where like I was kind of ashamed to be Romani, even in school, even maybe like when I applied for university. So I think that's something that I learned from them, like hiding myself in a way. So and not being proud of like who I am.
But do you feel more open about this part of you now? Do you feel that this is a part of your identity or your?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm like now proud of being Romani, and I learned that also my parents now they started to regain that part of themselves. Also like talking Romani now also in inside of the house. So I think that's really something that we all as a family kind of took back, but I learned it from them to be ashamed of it, and I think they learned from me to be proud of it eventually.
This is very cool actually, that you gave them new confidence in their identity and retook it in a way. That's great. But how did you do that? I mean, they told you that you're Romani, and then you thought, okay, I will tell everyone, and then I won't be ashamed of it, or...
No, I don't think they ever told me that we're like like actually like a sit down conversation. We have to tell you something, you're Romani. But I think I started realizing it as sometimes kids wouldn't want to play with me, and then I'll be like, why? And then they'll be like, oh, you're too dark or something. Especially
oh my god, I'm so sorry, I'm so shocked right now.
Yeah, especially during summer, because I get tan really easily, so it would be even worse during summer. So then I kept asking myself, okay, then maybe I shouldn't be so tan. Maybe I shouldn't say to people that like I'm Romani and stuff like this. So then I think after I went to high school, and then I started meeting more Romani people, and I saw how proud they were like to be themselves and not ashamed of like our traditional clothes and things like that. So then I was like, if they can do it, I can do it also. And then I just kind of like started regaining that confidence that it's okay to be who you are, because I can change me being Romani in any way whatsoever. So I just started gaining that back. And then I think with my parents, whenever we would go, I'll be like, Mom, if you want to wear we have like this specific skirts, like really, like women have this like really long and colorful skirts, and I'll be like, if you want you can wear it. And then she'll be like, but people will see. And I'm like, it's okay, like who cares, like we're going out as a family, we don't care about what other people think. So I think now they took that a bit from me, I would say.
I think sometimes we do as people need someone else to tell us, to reassure that we're okay. Yeah. And even because some other people shamed us for what they thought is not okay. Again, like some person might tell your mom, it's not okay, like you should be ashamed of wearing that skirt. But she needed other person in her life to finally tell her, hey, I'm here with you, and we can together wear this skirt and it would be fine. And I think this is exactly what inclusion is in a way, like telling to other person, I'm there for you, and I will support you if you want to be who you feel you are. That's the idea, I think. Another word that I think we kind of need to tell out loud now, and that is very connected with identity or can be compared to it, is authenticity. And being authentic is one of 3 core being authentic self is one of 3 core psychological needs, together with agency, which is the ability to influence what happens around you, and the belonging, the feeling of being connected to others, like being a part of some group, because it's a normal thing for us as humans to feel. It's our social need. So authenticity is the foundation of who you are. It ties to feeling safe, comfortable, and loved in some environments. And it's referred to a quality of being one true self, expressing what you really feel inside and your emotion, and also being able to share your values without any shame, and any confrontations from others. So we will try to simplify the difference between identity and authenticity. It will be that identity on one hand is the labels that are given, as we use the adjectives right now. Like, for example, I would say that you're beautiful, handsome, intelligent, kind, but sometimes people use not nice stuff, as we know, unfortunately. Or like saying, oh, this guy is so successful. This label can also called like an identity, but usually we try to use it for ourselves. Like, I am awkward, or I am nice person. I wish so.
Very nice person.
Mulțumesc. And authenticity, it's the key to self-awareness and psychological well-being and health. And authenticity is something what makes you feel special, like what you feel, who you are. It's like the base for you, and there on this base you can put these identities of yours. Of course, children need some space to learn and grow and build their authenticity, like this deep understanding of who am I as a human. And when we are allowed to explore more, we can build this authentic belief in ourselves without any shame and labels. And personal identity and inclusion, they're deeply connected because identity plays a crucial role in how individuals experience the belonging. If you've been traumatized once in some kind of society that you haven't been accepted, you can bring it through your life. And also it's about the feeling of being accepted, because even if people at your working space really accept you and you've been traumatized before, you will still come to this environment of new great office thinking that someone is not accepting you just because of your previous experience, and you will look for this not acceptance again and again. And Tony, my dear friend, I have a question for you. Have you ever felt that you need to fight for your identity?
Yeah. Many times. I'm two big minorities in Romania. So yeah, I think firstly I had to fight within myself to be able to accept my authentic self before I had to present it to other people who I am. So I think I had to, firstly again, to fight it within myself and then fight it outside of myself with other people, and social stereotypes and social standards, like Romanian standards also, and post-communist standards and everything. So yeah, I constantly had to fight for my authentic self, but I think it's always worth it at the end of the day. It's always beautiful to be even though today maybe wasn't the best day, but at least I lived myself. And I lived as myself, as my true self, as an authentic self. So
I think I really can connect to what you said about fighting with yourself, because in a way I experience it too, and still trying to understand my own identity. Who am I? This question pops up in my head all the time. Also, I think because you're growing up and some adjectives, they go away and some others come. And the being also this adaptive self, as scientists call it, when you're trying to be nice to others all the time, maybe because you're scared of being rejected, it's also kind of not allowing you to fully express who you are, because maybe sometimes I want to yell at people, but I can't, just because then they won't like me anymore. And then I think it's important for all of us from time to time to ask ourselves questions. Are we living this life to please others? Some other questions might be, are you flexible or tolerate of uncertainty? Do you have like emotional intelligence, and understanding of your emotions and how you manage them? For example, like you got scared. Are you going to run away, or are you going to like close up and like ask others not to move? And sometimes we actually don't know this about ourselves, and we can be surprised in some emotionally hard situations. But this emotional intelligence and self-awareness is actually really helps you to build your true self, in my opinion. And I think those questions would be helpful for our listeners to ask. Another question I had for you, prepared, is that do you think that doing all these Erasmus Plus projects or communicating with other volunteers, but here I think it's mostly about going abroad, do you think we grow up our identity, or the opposite, we kind of lose it by trying to be this European or more suitable for the society you go to in the specific country? Do you think it embraces your identity when you go abroad or not?
Oh, that's a very interesting question.
Of course, all my questions are very interesting.
I think you can do both, depending on how close you are to your identity and how authentic you are to yourself. For example, I lived in Portugal, and I think that really brought up some of my identity things. So for my queer identity, for example, I really feel like that really developed, and I was truly my true self. But then also my Romanian identity really went down. I had to, I didn't even think in Romanian anymore. I had to think in English and then like translate into Romanian certain things, or I would forget certain things, or I forgot how to make cozonac. Like I had to like watch a few videos when I knew this by heart. I was making this every Christmas. So I think it can do both depending on what you're allowing it to.
Going deeper into this cultural and identity discussion, I'm thinking how my culture, national background influenced the identity. I think for me it's a lot about the area of beauty and how the woman should look. Do you think there are areas for you in Romania and how the nationality changed you?
Yeah, I think one thing that I've noticed living abroad and then being Romanian is like how easy Romanians open their houses for people. I think in Western Europe especially, it's not something so common for you to bring your friend for dinner, or if you have just someone, like just have lunch with them, and like it's so easy to be like, oh, let's just have lunch today, and you don't have like to plan things, and you know they're always open, especially about food. I think like I brought one time one of my Portuguese friends to my family house, and then my mom brought everything out. I was like, please be hungry, because you cannot say no to anything. Like you must eat everything that she puts on the table. And then like going back to living abroad, I don't think I've seen that so much in, like I was put into the living room while they were eating because I didn't announce beforehand that I'm coming over. So I think that's something that like happens a lot in Western Europe, especially in like more Nordic countries. So that's something that I brought with me always wherever I was traveling around. Like I was always so open about sharing my food, my culture, like talking and like being like, oh, let's that's something that I like. I think it's deeply authentic Romanian and like Eastern Europe,
But like, you know, at some point while we were discussing all of that, the identity topic, I'm thinking, why is that really important? Like, why do we fight so much to identify ourselves? What I came up while considering that, why do we need to identify ourselves, is that it is really about well-being. How we're trying to make all the time the sense of our past, present and future, and identifying helps you to understand where are you moving on this scale. You know, like I've been at this point and now I'm moving forward to something, and my identity is changing and now I'm changing. And of course, if you can't identify, you can feel lost, or unsure what are you doing with your life too, which is a very scary question to ask sometimes. So it comes up with existential crises for some people. Also, it gives the feeling of belonging. If you can identify, okay, I'm an art lover, like deeply, I can try to become a part of the group who are the same as me. And it can be on different bases. Yeah, it's just my example, but it can be, again, I want to embrace that I'm a part of Roma community. Maybe I can connect more, as you did in university, with more people from Roma community. And of course, it's about development and growth. This way we can also fight some challenges because we're aware who we are. And then it's easier for us to tell, hey, here you're not doing it correctly for me because this is the way how I should be treated. Or you just know where are you standing. And I think it's very difficult for people with neurodiversity that had their diagnosis later on in their life, and while they were kids, parents might not understand their issues, and they've been just telling to that, you can do it, but you're just lazy, you're not doing it because you're lazy. And it might be told to a young person or a kid with inattentiveness. Or another thing, yours handwriting is awful. It's like chicken scratch. And maybe this person has dysgraphia. So he has issues actually with reading and writing. Why are you so clumsy? Or why are you looking like this to a person with autism spectrum? You know, sometimes we do really need to be careful because the things might not be visible, but people face the challenges and maybe themselves they don't understand what's happening to them, but they can't just achieve it, and just later on it can be understood why it was happening. So somehow I want to, I don't know, encourage others and encourage myself again to try to be more careful. Because the way we speak, it really hurts. And we don't know what other people really face.
Yeah, I think the parents never want anything bad for the kid, or they want to put it in a bad position. They always want them to like improve. They just don't understand at that point that maybe there's something going on with their child, or maybe they're on the spectrum, maybe they have some other problems. So I think they only want to do good, but they don't know how. And these type of words like can really like leave a scar forever. Even like you will always have something in the back of your mind, like, oh, you're so clumsy. Even that's not something that you can maybe control. So I think it's good to talk about this and like raise awareness in a way that. And I think also identity within like neurodivergent people, it's important because it kind of creates a sense of community. As with every type of identity, it's always good to have like kind of a support system and be like, oh, I know someone that has autism, for example. I also have autism. I will feel more connected. Like I have a sense of community with that person. So
yeah. I really thankful, Tony, for you being here. And,
thank you also.
Trying to discuss those things. You've been the best partner in doing that. And I would like to ask you, our listeners, to write in the comment section your experience with your identity. How is it hard for you to identify who you are? Or maybe nowadays it's very clear for you and you feel stable and you can share your path. Thank you for listening the Inclusivity Unlocked podcast. We'll see you next time to unlock the new topic. Bye!